ordinary piece of paper, but a president and two chief justices removed from office because of it. By law, all public officials and employees are required to file their SAL-Ns containing information on their assets such as cash and properties, liabilities, business interests, financial connections, and relatives in government. These can be used to expose corruption, conflicts of interest, and unexplained wealth of those in government. But up to this day, President Rodrigo Duterte has yet to release his SAL-N beginning 2018. And now, Bongbong Marcos, former senator who seeks to replace Duterte, under fire for saying he will not publicize his SAL-N if or when elected president. We'll take a closer look at the role of SAL-Ns in good governance tonight. Good evening. I'm Pio Ontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, Politics as Usual. Our guests tonight, joining us via Zoom, Attorney Christian Monsod, one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution, and senatorial aspirant, lawyer, Attorney Chel Diokno. Let's begin with you, Attorney Monsod, as a framer of the 1987 Constitution, a member of the 1986 Constitutional Commission. What does the Constitution say about SAL-Ns? I know you might feel like you're sounding like a broken record, but I think it's very good to remind people what the Constitution says about SAL-Ns. Sir, Attorney Monsod.
Yes, well, under Article 11 on accountability of public officers, that is Section
Attorney
17.
Monsod?
Yes. Sorry, can you hear me?
Attorney Monsod?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me? I'm not muted anymore. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hi, sir. Yes, now I can hear you, sir. So I hope you heard my question, po, sir.
Yes, I got it. Well, the specific constitutional
Yes,
provision,
go ahead,
of
po.
course, Article 11 and on accountability of public officers, Section 17, which requires public officials and so on to file a declaration of assets, liabilities, and net worth. And also, what's important is the end of that paragraph, which said that the declaration shall be provided to the public and in the manner provided by law. That the law cannot limit the amount of information, but just prescribe the manner of disclosure. So that's the specific provision on SAL in the Constitution. But I'd like to add that there are several provisions that are important or related to this. Number one, sovereignty belongs to the people and all government authority comes from them. What does that mean? It means that the people are the principals and public officials are their agents. And the principals have a right to know the qualifications and wealth and so on of their agents. Also in Article 11, public office is a public trust. Also Section 7 that says that the ombudsman is the protector of the people. The ombudsman is not the protector of public officials against the public. On the contrary, it is the job of the ombudsman to be the protector of the people. Okay, so that's the premises that we can discuss what this is all about.
Attorney Monsod, I started the show by asking you to repeat, like I said, like a broken record, because it's so important that we all remember what the Constitution says about the SAL-N. I have a few follow-up questions, but before we go to that, I wanted to ask Attorney Chel Diokno naman, who's also joining us via Zoom, what the law, for example, RA 6713, says about SAL-N. Again, Attorney Chel, I know you know this by heart, the way Attorney Chris Monsod knows the Constitution by heart also. But again, very good to remind people what the law says about SAL-Ns.
Thank you, Pia, and good evening. Good evening to all the viewers. The law is very clear. Republic Act 6713 both imposes an obligation on public officials and employees to file their statement of assets and liabilities and net worth, and as well provides that the public has a right to know the SALNs. And when you look at the other sections of the law, it also is clear that every citizen has access to the SALN, provided they just pay a minimum modest fee. And that's really the only condition imposed by the law itself. So I really find it, I cannot understand why there are officials who have made this mandatory ministerial duty into a discretionary type of thing, when it's obviously not that way as contemplated by the law.
Okay, so now the follow-up questions, and it's good that we heard you first, you also, Attorney Chell. So both of you saying public has the right to know. And as Attorney Chell was mentioned the word discretionary, because what's happening is that we have laws or rules or guidelines from different offices, including the Office of the Ombudsman, about when these can be released. Who can apply for a copy of SALN of so-and-so, what should be submitted. Parang ang daming mga requirements. Was it meant to be that way? Attorney Monsod, earlier you also said, di ba, yung public has the right to know. Was it really meant to be that way na kailangan may mga, well, hurdles before we get a copy of anyone, any official's SALN? Attorney Chris Monsod?
No, well, it's mandatory. It's a constitutional provision after all. It's not just a law. It's a constitutional provision. And the purpose of it is accountability. Like, you have to have to file a SAM at the beginning of your term, and you have to file a SAM at the end of your term. And then the information to the public is, if there is a questionable increase in your wealth, for example, they have a right to know what happened, how come that you increase your wealth disproportionately to your compensation as a government official. Because there are also prohibitions on what you can or cannot do as a public official, right? You have to disclose for example, your financial or contractual connections in business or profession and so on. And if I were a public official who was nothing to hide, I would be happy to provide the details in order to set the record straight on my net worth and on my wealth.
Attorney Chell, kanina binanggit niyo yung termino na discretionary, and for example, we remember very clearly how late last year, Ombudsman Martires was talking about how there should be several guidelines for releasing the presidents and the VPs SALN, and he was saying, why are people so interested in it? Yung Constitution as the portion of that read by Attorney Chris Monsod, and the law, RA 6713, as you reminded us, was it meant to be, para bang, pwede bang i-amend? Of course, laws can be amended, Constitution can be amended, pero, pwede ba nating galawin yan para, para mabago yung mga provisions on the SALN, for example, Attorney Chell, or hindi dapat?
The law is the law until it's amended. It must be followed by everyone, especially by our public officials. And if you look at the relevant provisions of 6713, they really provide for two rights for the public. Number one is access. Any citizen can have access at any reasonable time of the day. There's no even need to pay any fee, and there's no condition imposed by the law. If you want to get a copy of the SALN, then you must pay a fee. And that's pretty much the only condition imposed by the law. So if there are officials who are claiming that there must be so many different requirements that are not in the law, my view is that that's ultra vires, that is exceeding what's in the law, and they cannot do that. If they want to do it, then they should amend the law first. They cannot impose their discretion when the law does not allow discretion. And in fact, provides that the duty is ministerial.
Well, we've had top government officials, falling, or the axe falling on top government officials because of this. And President Duterte has said that he didn't want to release his SALN beginning 2018. Bongbong Marcos, a presidential candidate for the May election, saying he's not going to release it if or when he becomes or is elected president. All these questions hanging until we come back after this break. Politics as usual. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Politics as Usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. A Chief Justice and incumbent President removed or medyo sumabit dahil sa issue ng Statement of Assets, Liabilities and Net Worth ng SALN. That is what we're talking about tonight with Attorney Chel Diokno and Attorney Christian Monsod. President Duterte has said before that he will not release his SALN beginning 2018. In 2017, what we know is that 28.5 million ang kanyang net worth. What is the remedy? Is there a remedy for this or wala? Attorney Christian Monsod, sir.
Well, what is to me a matter of concern is that it seems that all the government agencies mentioned in the Constitution whose SALN should be disclosed to the public are making rules on the content of the SALN, right? They'll just give a summary of assets, liabilities, and net worth, and so on, and who can ask for a copy. The law, the legislature can provide the manner, but they cannot provide limitations on the content, correct? To me, it's a constitutional issue. Unfortunately, I think even the Supreme Court engages in that, in which they said that in which they would release only summaries of assets, liabilities, and net worth. And it's the Constitution, the Supreme Court, that has to interpret the Constitution.
Yeah. Well, so if President Duterte says, no, I'm not going to release my SALN, what is the remedy here? Can he be compelled? Who will compel him to release his SALN? Because, even if we say the public has the right to know, and then he says, no, I'm not going to release it, paano na?
That's Supreme Court, ultimately.
So kailangan umakyat pa sa Supreme Court para humingi ng SALN, which is already provided for in the Constitution and also provided for by law.
No, at saka yung specific officers. That's the one I'm saying that it's disappointing that the specific officers that are mentioned in the Constitution are making up their own instructions or conditions on the content. Manner, yes, but not content.
Well, Senator Bongbong Marcos now saying that if or when elected president, he's not going to be releasing, he's not inclined to release his SALN dahil pwedeng gamitin laban sa kanya. That's paraphrasing him. How do you view that now, Attorney Monsod?
Well, I think he's wrong. And I think it's about time that we reviewed, the agencies of government review their own instructions or conditions and so on, because this is the constitutional provision is not being implemented properly by, unfortunately, by almost all, if not all, of the government agencies that are tasked to do the job.
Attorney Chel Diokno, of course, you are a senatorial candidate on the slate of another presidential candidate, Vice President Leni Robredo. But what were your thoughts when you heard Bongbong Marcos say this, that he is not inclined to release his SALN if or when elected president?
Well, I thought no one is supposed to be above the law, and I thought we're supposed to have the same standard of justice for everyone. What the statement of Mr. Marcos, is really a reflection of how we have a double standard in our country, where ordinary government officials have to file their salins. They get charged and even convicted or removed from the service if they don't. While those who are in high government posts apparently can get away with it. And that is really why we have to do something about justice in our country. We have to find a way to strengthen it and to strengthen accountability.
So what can we do? When you say we have to find a way to strengthen accountability, what is that way? What exactly do we need to do?
Well, first of all, what remedies are available? It may be possible to file a petition for mandamus against the statutory custodian of the SALN for them to release the SALN as required by Republic Act 6713. That could be filed in any of the courts that have jurisdiction over mandamus. Other than that, if they are impeachable officials, they could also be subjected to impeachment, but we know that that's really a political exercise. In terms of legislation, it is possible to strengthen the citizens' right of access by amending Republic Act 6713 to give it more teeth, to make sure that it's very clear that the duty is ministerial and that any official who blocks the release of SALN should be penalized severely, because after all, we are just talking about making sure that government officials do not amass ill-gotten wealth. The purpose of a SALN is very clear. The public wants to know what you have in terms of your assets, liabilities, and net worth, and every year thereafter we can compare. If you declared only, say, 10 million today and next year you declared 50 million, then the public has a right to know where did you get that other money. And that really is very important to all of us, because the money of the government is not theirs. It belongs to the people.
And of course, we are presuming that everyone who files a SALN is telling the truth, not truthful yung laman ng SALN, right? I mean, so hindi lang pag-file ng SALN, the act of filing it, but making sure that what you put there is really the truth, right?
Yes, and many people are not aware that under the law, when you file a SALN, you're also required to execute an authority in favor of the ombudsman, so that the ombudsman can confirm the veracity of your SALN. That authority includes you're allowing the ombudsman to look into your records in the BIR, to check your business interests and financial connections, to ensure that your declarations are really accurate. And if not, then the ombudsman should be going after the person who misdeclared in their SALN or didn't file at all.
All right, more from our guests, Attorney Christian Monsod and Attorney Chel Diokno on the SALN. When we return, this is Politics as Usual. This is Politics as Usual. We are on our final stretch. Our guests, Attorney Christian Monsod and Attorney Chel Diokno. We're talking about SALNs. My final question, Attorney Diokno and Attorney Monsod, is this: can anyone be above the law for any reason whatsoever? Pwede ba siyang exempted dun sa batas ukol sa Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth? When I say anyone, I'm referring specifically to the incumbent president, so President Duterte, saying, no, I don't want to release my SALN and therefore he will not. Is he exempted because he's a very popular president? The other anyone we are referring to here, of course, is a presidential aspirant, Senator Bongbong Marcos. Can he be exempted from the law? Is he above the law? Because, for example, well, he's very popular right now. Pre-campaign surveys put him at 50% and above in survey rankings. Meron po bang pwedeng ma-exempt? Tulad nila, halimbawa, Attorney Chel Diokno, you first, and then Attorney Christian Monsod, then we'll go to final words.
Well, no one, as in no person at all, is allowed to be above the law. That's precisely why we have a law. Whenever Congress passes a statute, that is meant to be applied uniformly to everyone. And no one, especially those who are in government, can say that they are exempted. In fact, it is the opposite. Those in government should be the very first to abide by what is the law, because that's their purpose in sitting there. The authority that they wield is not their authority. Sovereignty comes from us, and we give our officials the government authority that they have. Therefore, they must abide and comply with all legal requirements, especially requirements like the SALN that have to do with ensuring that public office is a public trust and ensuring that there's no corruption in the government, that our money, the people's money, is not squandered or stolen by those in power.
Attorney Monsod?
Yes, well, I agree with Attorney Joc. No, nobody is above the law. And, just in current events, even the number one tennis player in the world is not above the law. When what happened to Djokovic, what more the president of a country, as Shell has properly said, that is the highest position, and it's a public trust. How can we trust a government when we cannot trust a president?
Public office, public trust. Final words, Attorney Chel Diokno, you first.
Thank you, Pia. Transparency and accountability are the heart of our democracy. That's in fact the reason why we kicked out the dictatorship. And that's why it's very clear in our constitution and in the laws that have been passed that we should have transparency and accountability. That's precisely the purpose of Republic Act 6713, the Code of Conduct of Public Officials and Employees, to ensure that our government officials don't hide their assets and that they are true to their duty and obligation to really be honest and not corrupt, and that they will just serve the people rather than being served by the people. That's why, to me, it's really sad, and I'm really determined to make sure that laws like Republic Act 6713 are given more teeth, and that we can restore the virtues of transparency and accountability to our government.
Attorney Monsod, your final words?
Yes, well, I think we've said it all. It's a public office, it's a public trust. And President Duterte is a very bad example of a president who refuses to abide by the Constitution. He filed up to 2017 and then he just stopped, didn't do it. And it is very disappointing. And I think really, when the ombudsman, who is supposed to be the protector of the people, is protecting people like Duterte from following the Constitution, there's something wrong with the office of the ombudsman when it does that. And Marcos Jr., who aspires to the presidency, seems to aspire also for what Duterte is doing, because he refuses to disclose the content of his assets and his liabilities and wealth. Well, I think the people should speak and insist that everybody must comply with the law, and nobody is above the law, particularly a candidate and a candidate for president and an incumbent president.
Attorney Christian Monsod and Attorney Chel Diokno, thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us tonight on the show. And by the way, we did extend an invitation to a representative of Senator Marcos to join the show. We have been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or at a family reunion or in Viber groups, and risk digital warfare. But we can talk about it here on this show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. See you back here next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m.